That wasn't fair. I apologize for that. Not the whole walking out and making a cliffhanger thing, because I think this actually deserved its own show. No, it was mostly the anger part, because there's a lot of internet reviewers who make their bread and butter on the whole "rawr, so angry, I'm gonna destroy me, Grimlock smash" kind of thing, and that's just not me. I mean, they do this persona character thing, and I don't do that. And there's a lot of guys who do that rage thing just so they can get more hits because, you know, that's what gets popular, but it's just not me. So I do apologize for that. But the thing is that guilds, especially in MMOs, it is one of the things that genuinely pissed me off about MMOs. Enough so that it's one of the reasons that I stopped playing WoW. A quick primer before we dive in. Guilds are going to be the overarching term I'm going to use, but every game likes to put their own stamp on the idea. Leagues, teams, platoons, clans, whatever. It's all the same thing. Essentially, think of a guild as a friends list. It's a group of players who form a team within the game. The reasons vary from overwhelming a PvP battleground to running end content together or just existing as a social club. In theory, it's nothing more than a friends list. It's an easy way to keep back in touch with people that you played with before. Now, keep in mind that in an MMO, just running into someone several times is noteworthy. You may not realize it, but in the real world, you don't see the same people as often as you think, unless it's in a store or a specific gathering place like a school or a restaurant. So, having a pool of like-minded players who also like what you're into is, in theory, good. It should let you find a group quickly and get into content that you want to play. Should. You know, I'm probably preaching to the choir with this one, because if you've been playing MMOs for any amount of time, you know exactly what I'm going to say here. Guilds, they kind of failed the social thing on every conceivable level. Technomancy. There are several different types of guilds out there, and if you hang out in open chat long enough, you see all of them. You get your social guild, which are mad at you for not talking enough and actually wanted to go adventuring. The leveling guild, which are mad at you for not adventuring enough and wanted to actually talk to somebody once in a while. There's raiding guilds who have their 10 core raiders, so there's never room to actually get into the raid. PvP guilds who have their emphasis on arena play so heavy that you think they're trying to get sponsorship from Mountain Dew.
And I don't handle anybody unless they are professionally gilded.
I think you mean gilded.
Mature guilds, which means that they think that swearing is the coolest thing ever, and my favorite, the "we exist to get the benefits of having a guild, but other than that we don't do anything" guild. I call this last one the Poke Guild effect, because these guilds will recruit the hardest, try to get the most people, and as players just do things in the world, everyone gets rewarded if they play or not. Everything from faster hearth regeneration to a faster mount speed to access to buffs that you just can't get any other way. The mechanic doesn't reward teamwork, it merely rewards being a warm body in the guild, so the system rewards people for collecting the most tunes, which is why I call them Poke Guilds. Now, Poke Guilds are pretty easy to identify. If you're ever invited to a guild for the grand and noble feat of just hanging out in the auction house, Poke Guild. But don't think that that's just the only problem. I think there's actually an overarching problem with all the guild culture. You see, with a lot of guild culture, it's not about what you want, it's about what they want. Or sometimes more correctly, it's what the guildmaster wants. I looked at a list of instances and raids in World of Warcraft just for this show. Now, before they had the looking for group feature, it was up to you to find people to do these instances with. So as a result, for the first year and a half of playing WoW, pretty much played none of the dungeons. Now, it wasn't for a lack of players, it was a lack of players willing to do the content, or anything other than the newest thing out there. Now, when LFG came out, it blew the doors open, and it actually allowed me to see more of the content the game had to offer, but even then, while looking at the list, I've only done a fraction of the content the game had to provide, and it was only what the LFR feature would actually let me access. I never got to run Lich King raid content until years later, and I never ran most of the Burning Crusade nor Cataclysm content either. The reason was, well, frankly, the guilds. For the most part, guilds don't want to run old content. Progression and raiding guilds don't want to waste their time on them because they have more important gear to get than the old pieces that just might happen to drop. So the guy or gal running the guild won't even bother entertaining the notion to help organize something that won't give them better numbers. Interestingly enough, some guilds would go after old content for guild achievements, and if you were lucky, you might get invited to an old raid just for that purpose. The point that I'm dancing around here is that I'm being excluded from content that I am paying for because of social pressure to get higher number gear. Not because I lack skill, not because I lack talent, not because I lack gear, but because these guilds don't want to run ancient content because they look at it as a waste of their time. I tend to look at it a little differently because in my mind it's like paying to watch an entire movie and then walking in at the last 10 minutes and then watching that 10 minutes over and over and over and over. As always, there are exceptions. I was in a guild that did run old content, once in a blue moon. It's actually how I got to see the ending of the Lich King storyline. That, however, didn't last very long. It came to a point where I ran half an instance with them one night, and then the next night they conveniently didn't hear me in vent chat and invited their friends to complete the mission with their so-called core players. This actually leads me to an unfortunate side effect of guild culture. For the most part, it's high school. I don't mean this in the flattering, rose-colored, good old days kind of way. I mean it's the ugliest part of the high school social scene. It's who you hang out with. It's what parties you go to. It's what clothes you wear. It's what clique you're in. It's who you use to get what you want. The only difference is that you don't stuff noobs in a locker in a show of jock dominance. Proof? Well, most are stories and things that I've seen happen, but I don't have any video of it occurring. One of my friends was demoted from the A squad of a guild for choosing reality over the game. Another friend of mine was picked up by a top-rated guild on his server and told he had to completely respec his tune top to bottom, and it cleared out his personal in-game resources to do it. They dropped him 2 weeks later when the guy they really wanted became available. This isn't even going into the guild horror stories that I could rattle off. I've had so many bad guild experiences, it's actually turned me off of joining guilds in every game that I play. Between the false promises, the selfish attitudes of the guild leaders, the enforced guild pride, the pressure to recruit more people for the guild... You know, actually, when I put it that way, I kind of make it sound like a cult. Well, I mean, some can kind of feel that bad, and obviously, you know, your mileage may vary. I mean, like, there's some guilds that are run by people who are internet game reviewers who really don't play MMOs, but they really want to play the MMOs because, you know, that's where they can interact with their fans. So, not knowing what they're doing, they just kind of put their friends in places where they can moderate these guilds, and then it really becomes a suck-up fest for all the fans, as they suck up to the officers so they might be able to get into a raid where they can fanboy the guy that they idolize, and nobody wants to correct him or tell him what he's doing wrong because, you know, they idolize this guy. So, you know, that's just... Not that I'm angry. Let me go back to the beginning. I said that guilds are one of the factors as to why I left World of Warcraft, and that's not an exaggeration. I got tired of the pushy attitude, not just from the guilds, but from Blizzard. It was clear through the guild reward system that the game was pressuring players to get into a guild. If you're not into a guild, you're punished for it. Oh sure, they put a spin on it and they call them guild rewards, but let's call it what it is. You want to go lone wolf your way through the game? You're going to suffer for your decision. You jump in with a guild, the game designers will make the game a lot easier for you. And it's important here to ask a question that's going to make some people feel really uncomfortable, but it has to be asked anyway. Why are guilds rewarded? And for that matter, why do they even exist? Everything that you can do within a guild, things like organize a raid, talk to your friends, keep in touch with people that you played with, you can do all this through friends lists. You don't need to have guilds, so why bother? Actually, the answer is pretty simple. The game developers need us to guild up. I've talked about this before, but MMOs are pretty unique in terms of how they have to make money in the gaming industry. They need a sustainable revenue to keep the servers going, and seeing as they can't update with content regularly, they have to rely on tricks to keep people playing. Skinnerbot techniques, slowing the player progress down, even peer pressure. Social pressure is a very strong influence on your life, and it's been observed by many other people. You go up to somebody and say, well, why do you play World of Warcraft even though you hate it? And the individual player will say, well, all my friends play it and I want to hang out with them. Social influence. The irony being that most of these players will also swear up and down their nonconformist individualist who use cookie-cutter builds for their class they happen to get from a website of best builds. I'm gonna let that sink in for just a moment. Okay, back in. In return, the guild will form this fake social bond within itself to create this illusion of friendship among the participants. In reality, you really don't know most of these people and they really don't know you. It's what makes you disposable. You're just a warm body as a means to an end in their own selfish means. Now, I realize some guilds are different, and each and every one of you are going to be the exceptions to the rule. I get that, but I tend to have a very negative outlook on these things for a reason. The point is that even the illusion of friendship is enough to keep some people in a game they otherwise don't like. It's another part of the human psychology thing that we like to feel we're part of something larger than ourselves. We need to feel like we're part of this community, so much so that we're willing to put up with a lot of stuff we don't enjoy just to get that feeling. And frankly, games like WoW rely on this peer pressure to keep you plunking down $15 a month into their pockets. Whenever I do videos like this, the comment section is always chock full of people who say, you know, I'm the exception maybe, but I'm in this guild and we all get along and we do old content and we really all talk to each other. We're all a bunch of good friends. If that's the case, you know, all power to you. Enjoy yourselves, please. Then again, the comment section is usually chock full of people who are saying, you know, you just gotta wait for the right guild. You gotta look for the perfect fit for you. I'm just here to play the game, guys. I don't want to make the game my girlfriend. Nor my boyfriend, for that matter. But the point I'm getting at is that a guildie is not really a replacement for a true friend. You know the old saying, a friend will help you move, a good friend will help you move a body? A true friend will help you transition someone into the body status. Some of you are going to get that later. Oh, hey, I've been meaning to ask you, how'd the candle go out? I didn't remember.
Oh, yeah, I blew it out for you. I didn't want to make a fire hazard or anything.
You blew it out. How?
Well, it's easy. Do it like this.
That's, impressive.